Nelly, what set you on this path precisely of all this movement and all this adventure that we see on social media?
I think a series of experiences from when I was a child. I've always loved movement. I've always loved being outdoors. I've always had this interest in adventure. Although I didn't have much of it growing up, but I felt really curious about being outdoors and just always moving. It was dance and it was art. And when we had drama in school, it would be drama. And so I think it was all these series of experiences in my childhood that then led me to sports. It was actually dance at the beginning, and then that kind of morphed into sports. And then from sports, I tried various types of physical activities from CrossFit to running to just standard training. And then that kind of moved into hiking and climbing. And here I am now. So it's a series of experiences from when I was a child, really. I think, there was, I would say, a few moments that I remember. When I was a child, my dad used to take me hiking in the desert. And he really loved when I would ask about insects and try to pick up the rocks. And for some reason, I would tell him, leave things as they are. Like, let's not take things back home. I would just be interested sometimes to check them out and then I'd leave them. And my dad's love for my curiosity reinforced me to do this more and more with him. And then when I was 17, he took me on my first hike, which was in Mount Kenya. He was living there at the time. And it was my first year of university, and I'll never forget that. That trip, of course, planted the seed of adventure for me. We went to Mount Kenya, we lost our luggage. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we were on a mountain for 2 days. And that experience for sure left something changed in me. We didn't summit the mountain. Dad got hypothermia. But I came back and I was like, wow, this felt amazing. It's still my identity. And my identity is I love movement. I love so many different things in life. I don't have one hobby, or it's not one hobby, or it's not one passion. I'm passionate about life. And so I tried different things, and I've been doing that ever since I was a kid. I used to paint a lot, and I used to be known for art in school. And then I was known for dancing, and then I was known for photography at some point. I remember when I was studying in university, I was actually the university's photographer. And then that morphed into being a psychologist. I still am the same person. I don't define myself by what I do. It's who I am. And what I do is what I do, and it's what I love to do.
So would you say you found yourself?
I'm still trying to find myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. You have mentioned, I watched this in some other video of you, that you felt movement is medicinal for you. And my question to you is, did that ever help you go through grief and other struggles in your life, perhaps the passing of your dad?
Of course. I think one of the reasons why I started committing to training is because it helped me with my anxiety.
Yeah.
So this was back when I was studying psychology. I was doing my master's degree. I developed panic attacks. And ever since I was a kid, I've had history of anxiety. So I've been put on anti-anxiety on and off several times in my childhood. And I think it could have just been symptoms of ADHD. I think there is something there that maybe is not specifically anxiety, but I never saw a psychologist when I was.
So you were on pills during your childhood for that?
Yes, on and off. I would see a psychiatrist whenever, let's say, my grades would start to go downhill, or I would start to act out in my childhood when my parents got divorced. And they would say I have high anxiety. And then when I was doing my master's degree, I got diagnosed with panic attack syndrome. And then a couple years ago, when I lost my dad, Allah yarhamu, this is when I realized how important movement is. This is what kept me going. And I felt like I've seen what it has done for me, and I want to provide this for other women. And let's see, maybe after working hours, I can start to provide classes and help, improve people's lifestyles in different ways. And then that completely took over my life. I felt like this is where I'm creating more of an impact in health and psychology and wellness. And that's why I completely shifted to working in sports. I was continuously moving and training as Dad was in the hospital, again, to manage my stress and anxiety. And literally the day after Dad passed away, I went for a run. I was crying and running and crying and running. And it carried on. It never stopped.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. I think the relation between movement, exercise, and anxiety, panic, grief, pain, there's a very high correlation between these two, and the movement helps a lot with these things. So yeah, I can relate with that. Do you think maybe you started doing these things a little bit more after the passing of your dad, or was it just something you consistently kept throughout?
I mean, I've been doing these things consistently for a long time, but after Dad passed is when I started to climb more.
Yeah.
And now I climb professionally.
Yeah.
After Dad passed, I felt like I was so driven to continue my dad's spirit and carry my dad's spirit everywhere I go and in what I do. And that pain gave me so much more drive. And that's what inspired my K2 climb. That's what inspired my Denali climb. I remember the first time I smiled after my dad passed away, like smiled from my heart, is when we were on a call with our guides to go climb the highest peak in North America, Denali. And then I smiled and then I went and cried because I'm like, I'm not used to smiling. And I felt really guilty about feeling happy again. But I'm like, okay, no, this is why I need to do it. It brings me so much joy. And it was cathartic. The whole process is cathartic. Preparing for these climbs, going through pain, really digging deep. It just releases so much. It releases so many emotions. So no, I don't suppress through training. I release through training. And it's my way of self-expression. It's my way of connecting with people. It's my way of really exploring my potential. And that's why I love to do different sports as well.
Nelly, can you take me exactly to the moment when your dad passed? I just want to put myself in your shoes. I want to be able, although I'll never be able to, but I want to be there. I want to really feel what happened in that particular. How did you find out what happened? Where were you? Where was he?
So he passed away from COVID.
Underlying illness for that? Okay.
Yeah, he passed away from COVID. No underlying illness. And it happened really quickly in a span of 2 weeks. I was lucky enough to have visited him in Lebanon because it was when there was airport closure everywhere. I couldn't visit him for 9 months. And I was so close to my dad. So usually I go visit him every month from Saudi to Lebanon. Like I'm there once or twice a month. And then for 9 months, I couldn't see him. And then as soon as the airport opens in October, I go see Dad. And the crazy thing is that before I went to Lebanon, I was telling Dad after Lebanon, I'm going to go climb in Nepal. And he said, okay. Then he sends me a message the second day, a voice note, saying, I don't want you to go climb. I thought about it. I don't feel good about you climbing. That was the first time he says no. And yeah, he was like, I just have a bad feeling. And if anything happens to you on the mountain, I will die after you. Please don't go. Instead, spend more time in Lebanon. I said, okay. I spent more time with him in Lebanon. And it's just weird because I think something told him that something was going to happen. And so I spent 3 weeks with him. We had a great time. We did things that we hadn't
Did you have a
done.
gut feeling?
I dreamt of my dad passing away a month before he passed away. And I think it's because of how close I am to my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so lucky to have had some sort of signs, I think, that my dad was going to pass away. When I dreamt of him passing away, I actually called him and I told him. He was like, hey, طول عمري, it's in our culture,
yeah,
when someone passes away in your dream, it means that their life is extended. And I was like, okay. And then anyways, I go to Lebanon and I was actually looking at the pictures today. Just today, I was looking at the pictures. There were so many selfies of me crying. It's like something was telling me that something dark was going to happen. I felt like there was a dark cloud over my...
What do you mean by selfies crying? Like you would take a selfie while crying?
Selfies crying as in there's just a few of me in bed, and then I cried and I sent it to my mom. And I was talking to my mom, I was telling her that I was really worried about Dad.
Yeah.
Mom lives in Saudi.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to tell Dad that I felt weird or I felt off on this trip. And Mom was like, it's because you missed him. You didn't see your dad for so long. And that's what I thought it was. And I was hoping it was that. So I spent those 3 weeks in Lebanon. We literally went everywhere. We did everything. We saw childhood friends that I hadn't seen from when I was a kid. We went to the beach. I hadn't gone with my dad to the beach in years. And we talked about everything. We even spoke about Everest. And he was like, I want to scream to the world that you had done Everest. Can I scream here in the pool? I'm like, no, Dad, don't. You'll embarrass me. And we just had these wonderful moments. It's as if he was saying bye. And then we got to see a lot of the family members. And because he got COVID, that was the last time we saw anyone.
Did you get closure?
I got closure from the whole experience because I did go back to Lebanon. So he got COVID. Right before I left, he started coughing. We didn't know it was COVID. He went and got tested, but his results only came out after I left. When I went back to Saudi, then I started to get sick. And so I got COVID too. And so we both had COVID at the same time. And it was my uncle and my cousins. Someone at their work apparently had COVID. And we were on the call the whole time talking about, oh, Dad, how are you doing today? What are you drinking? Oh, Nelly, how are you sleeping? For about a week. I got better. He got worse. And then 10 days later, he got intubated. And I was so lucky to be able to go back to Lebanon. I was so lucky to have recovered from COVID quickly, to be able to make it in time to be with Dad. And I was so lucky to have been with Dad in the hospital because there was utter chaos in the hospitals in Lebanon that people were going in and out. It was shortly after August 4th. And you know what? I feel like in a way, Dad got what he wanted. He never wanted to grow old. He never wanted to rely on anyone. He used to always tell me this. He said this to me when I was during my trip with him in Lebanon. We saw a man basically being helped out of a car. And he was like, I never want to be dependent on anyone. I never want to get to that stage. And he never did. This is what faith gives you. It gives you peace. And this whole experience got me so much closer to faith because you can question and you can doubt and you can get angry and you can get frustrated, but how is that going to help you or help the family? And whatever it takes to help you accept it, you need to do. And of course, like with peace still comes guilt, and with peace still comes frustration and anxiety. And grief is it's like an ocean. Some days I feel like I'm drowning. Even 4 years later, I still feel like sometimes it overwhelms me. The pain overwhelms me. And then sometimes I feel like, no, it's this blissful feeling that comes because it's just a reminder that I'm going to cry again.
I think a lot of people who haven't lost their parents really feel scared at this point. We all think about it, right?
Of course.
What would you say to everyone, including me, including everyone watching? What would you say? Everyone's dreading these moments.
I think we're all going to go through it. Like you're born, you're going to die.
Yeah.
We're all going to die. It's inevitable. And I know it's hard to say, and I know it's hard to implement, but you can't be afraid of death, and you can't allow this fear of your loved ones passing to control you or to control how you act or behave. If it should control you, let it get you closer to your family and let it make you more present with your family. But when we pass, or how we're going to pass, is something that we can't control. And I think having lost my dad and having gone through that, I don't have that fear anymore. I don't have that fear because I've gone through the thing that I didn't even want to think of my dad passing. I couldn't even talk about, I don't feel like I've lost my dad completely. I feel like his presence is still there. And it's hard to describe. This is something that people used to tell me. And now I feel it. And there are moments that I really feel my dad's presence. It's usually when I'm climbing. And I think this is why I keep going back to the mountains. It's on those really hard days on climbs that I feel my dad's energy with me. And there's moments that are hard to describe that have happened over the last 4 years, where I really feel my dad's energy and presence. I dream of my dad a lot, especially during the times that I'm stressed. And I don't feel like it's goodbye. It's see you later.
Has that brought you closer to your mother, your sister?
Of course. My younger sister. Bless her. I used to bully her. She's much younger than me. And Haram, I used to bully her a lot. And she's from a different dad. And maybe that's why I used to bully her. There's such a big age gap and I wasn't so good with kids. But she was my biggest support system when I lost my dad. And of course, that changed entirely my relationship with her. I used to treat her like a little kid. And then when I lost my dad, seeing my younger sister, who's 14 years younger than me, carry so much space for me. guide me through praying, because that's when I started praying. In my 30s, actually, I started praying. And that's when
Wow.
I got a lot more spiritual and religious. And since then, I haven't stopped.
So, Nelly, a lot of people on social media are aware about these struggles you've been going through. A lot of people probably consider you a role model with everything you do. Do you feel the social pressure behind all of that on social media?
No, I don't think there's pressure from social media, but there is some sort of pressure that's self-imposed. I have a lot of self-limiting beliefs and self-imposed pressure sometimes that I have to post this, I have to share this. No, 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 wait. I might be doing too much. No, no, wait, maybe I'm doing too little. And so sometimes I feel like those limiting beliefs or pressure that's self-imposed can limit me.
Nelly, I want to ask you something. On social media, I'm going to show this picture, a beautiful photo of you actually that was taken, I think, somewhere in the mountains. Can you tell me, honestly, as you know, I'm also an artist, a hyperrealism charcoal artist, and a lot of things that I see sometimes move me. And I feel sometimes there's a story behind a person's face, especially within a certain moment of when that photograph was taken. Can you tell me a little bit about that photo and where were you? And tell me a little bit about the scar on your face.
When we got to base camp, it was just euphoria, happiness, ecstasy. I was so happy. And I remember everyone was just hugging everyone. It was so overwhelming. Obviously, there was no social media. We're completely disconnected for at least like 2 weeks or 10 days. And that also brought me so much joy because I was so present with my team. And
Was that a random photo taken or was it
No.
something you prepared for?
there was a photographer that was at base camp and she was taking portraits of climbers before and after.
Okay.
If you see my portrait, you should maybe show my portrait before we started climbing.
Yeah.
Right before we attempted the summit, my face looked completely different. I couldn't smile.
Yeah.
I looked really serious. I even looked a bit chubbier. And then coming down, that little scar is frostbite. It was from the wind because there's a little gap between my mask and my buff. So that kept getting caught in the wind. And so I got a little frostbite on my cheek. And then just sheer exhaustion from my face, but then so much happiness. And she actually told me, can you not smile? And there's another photo where I was just smiling. All you see is a smile. I was just like crying from laughter. I couldn't stop smiling. I was so happy.
When I look at this photo, I feel the human face hides layers of emotion beneath it. And when I look at this photo, I see you smiling like that. And you obviously pinned this photo to your profile, which tells people a little bit about you. It tells them maybe this is who you are, and this is you smiling through the struggle, smiling through the pain, maybe that frostbite. When I look at this photo, I feel that you took it right after some sort of strenuous activity. I mean, it looks like you've been on an adventure, and that was the photo you took at the end.
Top of the world.
And you were smiling,
Mm.
on top of all that. And I love this photo so much that it moved me, and I have something to show you.
Oh, no way. I wanted to say, can you do some art? No way. Oh my God.
So,
I actually don't know what to say. Thank you so much.
no, you're most welcome.
How long did it take you to do this?
To me, time does not matter if I'm doing what I love. Especially if I'm doing something that I'm inspired by. So the question of how long this took me is actually irrelevant.
No, it's relevant.
I loved every process of it, and
Oh,
I love
wow.
bringing things to life through every stroke. And I think, yeah, I really hope you like it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Is this for you or can I take it? Are you sure? I don't know because it's art.
Yeah.
Wow, thanks.
I think that generally speaking in life, sadness, pain, and grief is a lot more powerful than happiness. It's the unfortunate truth, but it is the truth. Nelly, if we take away all the titles, achievements, who is Nelly Attar at her core?
Good question. I think someone that loves life and someone that's really curious about life. And yeah, someone that wants to experience life fully while also creating a change in the world, a positive change. And I'm still trying to figure out how I can best do that. I'm still trying to figure out where my potential is. I don't think I have things figured out yet. So all these titles actually don't mean much to me, because a lot of the times I feel lost and confused. And I'm still trying to figure my way. But at the core, I'd say someone that really loves life and just wants to experience every day as it comes as if it's my last day.
Nelly, final word for people who know you or don't know you on social media and want to be like you. What advice would you give them?
Take risks. I would say take risks. If you're leaning into something, if you're curious about something, try, take risks, take steps into following what your dreams are, into fulfilling that curiosity. What's the worst that can happen? You fail? Great. That's a new life experience. And if you don't fail, there's so much that you can gain. And it's the process, it's the journey that makes the whole thing meaningful. Even when you don't know what the steps are going to look like. You take a step, the next unfolds, the next unfolds. Trust me, I didn't know that I'll get here today. And when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. I actually once told my friend, I'll never open a dance studio. Ugh, this is like not something I'll ever be capable of doing. And I was not a professional dancer. And I opened the first dance studio in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And the same thing happened in my climbing journey. When I was packing for Kilimanjaro, my friend was helping me, I was borrowing her gear. And I saw a book on Everest. And I asked her, like, who would do this? Why would people do this? Why would they want to suffer like this? And what do you know? It's what I do today. So you don't know how far you can go unless you take risks.
And you're still finding yourself.
Yeah.
You're still taking risks.
I'm still taking risks every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Perfect. Yeah, I think that's a wrap. That's amazing.